end of the world. It's the end of the world. Tonight, the end of the world is gonna end tonight.
Man, I can't wait till the world ends. It's just me today, guys. My producers, assistant production people, they are not here. So it's just me and the dogs and the cat and the rat. And I can't do this alone. I can't. So I do have a few co-hosts just in case we need, conversation has gotten the greatest response. So got to have somebody to talk to in case things get crazy. And they are likely to, because I am alone and there's nobody here to keep me on track or censor me. So this may be a highly volatile episode. When you get up in years a little bit, I'm not old, elderly or anything, but I'm not the spring chicken that I once was. Even saying spring chicken, that's not something I would have said 20 years ago. So, hold on a second. Got to take the aspartame to the brain. So I'm about to sit here and tell you to be healthier as I'm drinking aspartame-laced Coca-Cola products. Aspartame's not a great thing, but guess what? Neither is high fructose corn syrup. I'd say both of them will affect your brain in some way. Aspartame goes straight to the brain, where high fructose corn syrup affects your gut fauna, which can affect your cognition. It can affect your emotional state, your psychological health. So, I am about as heavy, not with muscle, as I've ever been before, and it's time to get back in shape. So I've been running and dieting and drinking a lot more water. See, I also have some H2O, and even though I like Ozarka, it's good, but I also have well water. So this is actually filled with earth-filtered, mineral-enriched nature water. So I'm running on the trail, and I run by a house that I always run by. It's about 100 feet from the trail, but I always know it's there before I see it because there's the strong odor of heavy, stale cigarette smoke. And I've got to tell you, I'm not trying to offend anyone. Cigarette smoke it smells bad. Nobody walks into a room and goes, somebody's smoking one of those sweet cigarettes. It smells a lot better in here. Nobody buys a cigarette odored candle. They buy candles to take care of the odor of cigarette smoke. And tobacco, it does not smell bad. I mean, it's about its preference, right? But tobacco is, you do get fragrances that have tobacco in them to make things smell better. Tobacco, if you walk into like a pipe shop, it smells sweet. Now, a lot of that, they do add syrup and stuff to pipe tobacco to make it smell more like fruit, cherries and stuff, vanilla and stuff like that. But the smell itself isn't displeasing. And that's because there's so many dang noxious, deadly chemicals. And that is why okay, so here's the point that I'm getting to this. And I'm going to tie a few things together, not just that I don't like the smell of cigarettes and that they're unhealthy for you, right? So not too long ago, this new, it's been a little while now. This new trend came out called vaping, right? And a lot of cigarette smokers that were inhaling thousands of horrible chemicals that very rich people have made a lot of money on by killing you, right? So this vape comes out, and of course there's controversy. Of course there's blowback, and especially in MSM, the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is not your friend. Their business is to lie to you. You might get some information. It's going to be spun terribly in one direction to get their narrative across. But you've got the mainstream media that is very against it. And they had a heyday when some people had some really bad reactions to vape. So a few people had first time they vaped and they had these horrible lung reactions. What they don't tell you, I mean, they kind of did in some of the news outlets, but they buried it and they talked over it. They mentioned it like that political gymnast Howard Zinn does in the People's History of America. He lays out what he's gonna do, what he's gonna do with Columbus right before he does it, and what he's gonna do with the opposition to the opposition to Columbus, where he says that everybody minimizes all their bad traits and the atrocities they did, and then they mention it just a little bit just to say that they put it in there, and then wipe over it with a bunch of stuff to prove their point, just like they did with the native people, where some of them were very receptive and to the Europeans, and some of them had good relations, and some of them were cutting hearts out of the neighboring villages by the tens of thousands and cutting their heads off and worshiping snake gods and putting people into slavery, right? So that is for a later episode. So the point is, most of these people that had these horrible reactions, well, you don't know what's in these things. Well, actually, this oil, it can't be good for you. Actually, and see, I've worked for doctors. The same doctors that said, vaping is worse for you than smoking cigarettes. That's actual smoke. You shouldn't put smoke in your body in the first place if you can prevent it. And it's got formaldehyde, arsenic. You could go on and on and on and on and on. They take, if you ever actually see the process of what they do to make cigarettes, they put it in they get the tobacco, the highest nicotine concentration of tobacco, and they put it in a vat, and then they use all these chemicals to freebase the nicotine to make it more addictive. A lot of these things will kill you, cause carcinogens, right? And stuff to make it more addictive and smoother, like sugar and chocolate. Horrible stuff. And so that's why you get this acrid smell, chemical smell, that doesn't smell like when somebody, per se, lights up a cigar. So the base of vape is propylene glycol, which is an alcohol, which is it's very safe. In fact, if you have a breathing treatment, the albuterol is delivered on a base of propylene glycol. So it's like the doctors are saying, vaping is worse for you than cigarettes because it has propylene glycol. Now take this stuff that's going to help your lungs called propylene glycol. So what was happening is these people were taking illegal drug cartridges, THC cartridges, illegally made, not the vape with the propylene glycol, the stuff to deliver THC into your system that's not made by an actual company that goes through arguably, a lot of scrutiny to make sure that they're safe for humans. Procedures. So, the fact is, there's a lot of money in big tobacco. The mainstream media represents people with a lot of money. They are overseers. What you hear about politics is just not the real story. Sometimes good things happen. Sometimes, usually because of personal motives, your concerns get addressed. But if it was even, okay, say, take the side that is supposed to. Let me show you some memes first, because there's a good one here. I saw some memes, and here's where's it at? Here we go. This is a good one. GOP, greed over people. Republicans, right? Republicans are all about greed, and Republicans are actually, if you look at the founding of the Republican Party, it is a religious movement. Yeah, a lot of religious church people took issue with the idea that the Democrats, the same Democratic Party, yes, were really adamant about preserving the issue of slavery. The GOP party, the Republican Party, really didn't like the idea of man owning other man. And that is, Republicans get this false rap for being the party of people that are racist, when it was the party that was created to stop slavery. The Democratic Party is the party that removed Indians from their native territory in the Trail of Tears. Andrew Jackson was a big old Democrat. Abraham Lincoln. There's a lot of controversy about Abraham Lincoln. And from the beginning, when Lincoln died, there was a couple of his secretaries. One was John Hay, and they said people are going to rewrite this guy's history. So they set to the task of preserving who Abraham Lincoln really was. So now, of course, just like they said, you're going to have a lot of people that want to promote a political agenda, that want to say that Lincoln wasn't very religious. He didn't have any issue with slavery, and he was actually pro-slavery and would have kept it if it would have stopped the Civil War, which was, it was the main basis. You can talk about state rights all you want, and I'm very pro-state rights. I'm not pro-slavery. So I like to think that if I was alive in that time, I would have pulled the trigger for the Republican Party. And I'd like to think that most people, in hindsight, would have supported ending slavery. So, yes, superstars of the Republican Party like Ted Cruz. The Republican Party is supposed to be the party of republic. See, democracy says that the mob rules. If enough people want what you have, they can just vote themselves that. Kind of like, it's socialism. Republic says that your rights as an individual need to be preserved. Right? It's preserving everyone's rights. They represent the individual person. And you see that superstars like Ted Cruz aren't very adamant about stopping all the censorship that we're seeing in the number one delivery system of information that exists. The biggest one that has ever existed in the history of mankind. Censorship over the internet. Our biggest information outlets are monopolized by people who only want you to hear one thing. Project Mockingbird, that's your mainstream media. They're not your friends. The news isn't your friends. CNN isn't your friends. Fox News isn't your friend. So, now don't get on. Don't say that I'm saying that everything on Fox News is fake. Not everything on CNN is fake. It's really great when you can use CNN to show how corrupt CNN is when they accidentally report real news, and it's very embarrassing for them. So, people that I've seen this time and time again, stopping smoking. I've never smoked. Thank God I never started, because people have a hard time quitting. If you haven't seen that situation, a lot of people switched to vaping, and I've heard recently I've heard the excuse, well, vaping's just as bad as smoking. Well, you're inhaling. So say there is a bad chemical in this vapor, this vaporized food grade alcohol. Say there is a harmful chemical. I can almost guarantee it's probably not as bad as the thousands of noxious chemicals that are causing cancer and emphysema and COPD and a million other things that are. So addiction in the Christian life, right? I can't say I don't like it. I don't think anybody should be addicted. I hate the smell of it. I hate that when I have to be around it, especially if you've ever had to work as a non-smoker. If you've ever had to work in an environment where you walk in and it gives you headaches. It gives me headaches, right? I grew up in a home with a smoker, smoking in the car. It's horrible, and I'm going to be pretty dang upset if some health issues arise from what I couldn't control as a child. So I say that it's a good idea not to do that. I can't say as a Christian that I've seen a lot of pastors, a lot of denominations even say, you can't be, pretty much smoking is a sin and you can't be saved, basically, if you smoke or teach. And I don't think it's a good attribute for a teacher to have. But when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking you got to throw C.S. Lewis straight down the toilet. A lot of people might have issues with some of the stuff that C.S. Lewis has said, but I've learned a lot from mere Christianity that put into words things that I had been thinking or trying to come. I had all these loose ends, I guess, in it, all these frayed thoughts, and that book straightened them out and lined them out and put it very eloquently. And guess what? The guy smoked. Do I dare go there? Charles Spurgeon, cigar smoker. Now, I think that cigars are in a different class, pipes and cigars and things that aren't modified, or at least modified to the level that cigarettes are. I think that God put a lot of things on the planet for our to not be abused, but in moderation, all things are lawful, right? A lot of people say you can't be that drinking any kind of alcohol, having a glass of wine with dinner is absolutely against God and a sin. Well, there's 12 disciples and a leader of that and a prophet that would have a stern talking to by some of these pastors, I guess. And they just drank grape juice. That's pretty much nonsense. They didn't put a bunch of they didn't press the grapes and put them in a bag and say, well, here, just have some grape juice. No, wine is wine. There's a process and there's a reason for it. There's a good documentary called The History of Beer that lays that out. A lot of people knew that you got sick from drinking water, so they didn't. They drank stuff that had been through the process of fermentation to create alcohol, which killed any of the bad microbes. And so Romans 14 deals with this. A lot of that stuff, addiction's bad. Any way you look at it, addiction's bad. But you get all these things that have been taught to you, that have became part of Christian culture because of mainstream media, because of lobbyists, now take marijuana, for instance. Now, I'm not promoting marijuana use for Christians at all, but I got a little video here, and this is something, God grew it, man. That was bad. God grew it, I smoke it. Anyways, I got a video here that as a Christian, as a father, as just a decent human being that uses a common sense brain, go ahead and argue this with me.
17 years ago, Christy Zartler gave birth to twin girls.
Keely, her twin, came home first, and then 3 days later, Kara followed her.
And they began the difficult, years-long task of learning how to treat Kara's cerebral palsy and severe autism.
This is an antipsychotic.
There are antipsychotics and enzymes and sleep aids. But few things help.
Now, see all those pills? That's another thing. See all those pills? There's a lot of Christians that would say, hey, that's bad, but the doctor prescribed this for me so I can take these SSRIs that drive me out of my freaking mind, that make me unable to feel appropriate emotions, and instead of using logotherapy, I'm going to use the tried and true anti-Christian practices of the extremely cigar addicted Sigmund Freud, also a coke addict, right? Logotherapy is much more where psychotherapy and drugs may make the problem less noticeable, may put a Band-Aid on it, but then it's going to leak more, and you're going to have to put a bigger Band-Aid, and it's going to spring a bigger leak. Logotherapy is about using your mind to heal your mind, using your experience to heal, using your pain to heal your pain. Just like the Bible says, sorrow leads to this, leads to that, leads to, it leads to not sorrow. So, I'm not saying that all drugs are bad. I'm not saying that all psychotherapy is bad. I'm saying it's grossly overused, in my opinion. This is an opinion show, right? So she's got tons of these drugs that probably putting this poor girl out of her mind. So let me fast forward a little bit and take another look.
When it's heating up, I turn off the fan, have a level 1/8 of a teaspoon.
When Mark found the one thing that could stop his daughter, he made this video to show the world. It takes 6 deep breaths. And a father's dedication.
You calm? Yeah, let's get up. It's okay. Got me up. Okay.
They're using weed, people. Argue that with me. Tell me that's wrong. Tell me that's a sin right there. Yeah, so things are more complicated than they look. There's autodidactism. That's self-educating. That's without the major institutions. That's without the indoctrination, which almost all of us have had. We get it on TV. We get it from the public school system. Autodidactism. Look with use critical thinking. Explore this stuff yourself. You'll find this a lot more complicated than you probably thought. And compare it to traditional education. They work hand in hand. There's a lot of good stuff, information out there from the established fields of education and science and so with the self-learning, autodidactism, you can pick out what part of that doesn't seem right. Maybe there's some money behind that. Okay. I wanted to harp on, some Christian generalizations of what sin is and what sin isn't. Here's the thing. We try to stop all these things by raising age limits, right? So they raised the age limit of smoking from 18 to 24 21, right? I'd say that's a problem with society. Just like alcohol use. If a child gets to age 18 and just goes crazy and becomes a wild drunk, maybe we should do better raising those children up as parents and as a society. I know there's always exceptions, but I guess my point is this: as a society, if we're going to say that 21 is that age, because your prefrontal cortex keeps growing till you're like 25, and that's your decision-making area of your brain and everything, then let's start with the worst. And the worst isn't cigarettes or alcohol. You've got until there's the whole thing: you can fight, die for your country when you're 18, but you can't buy alcohol. The way more damaging than all of these things is pornography. Why is a society, I'll tell money and secret sins. There's a lot of people that might openly, there's a research that I heard, it was a while ago, and I think it's kind of correlated by the Ashley Madison incident, when so many pastors were outed as trying to have an affair on their wife while leading a congregation. That pornography viewing in the church is exactly the same percentage as outside the church. And until we as a society say that it should be that an 18-year-old child, if someone's too much of a child to make the decision whether they want to smoke or drink at 18, then they shouldn't be able to make the decision to be in a pornographic commercialized video. That as a society, priorities, right? And even mainstream people like Billie Eilish is bringing this to light, So, rant, right? Next time, we'll have a little fun. If you didn't check out my news briefing, check that one out. Tell me what you think. Hey, I'm here to work for you guys. You tell me what you want to see. That's what I'll do more of. Until next time, I'll keep moderately drinking my brain-eating aspartame, and I'll see you then.